right. No one's in yet. Here we go. Welcome, attendees. We have everyone filing in. I like to give it a minute or two to make sure anyone who wants to join doesn't miss any of the start. But we'll wait another minute or two here, and then we'll get started. We've got people joining quite quickly. This is great.
Hey, it's good news.
I know, it's fantastic. People keep joining. When people stop joining quickly, we'll get started. Thanks everyone who's joined so far. Bear with us for another minute or two. We'll make sure no one misses too much if they show up a few minutes late, and we'll start here in just another minute or two. All right, people keep joining. Give it another minute. All right, we're a couple minutes after 3 p.m. Eastern time, so let's get started. I already have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Frederick from New York. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. So I'll kick it off. My name is Rob Burnett. I'm with Netcapital. We are an online funding portal that helps anybody buy and sell stock in early stage private companies. I'm here today with Kenny Gallagher from SelenBio, one of the companies that's currently raising capital on Netcapital. The way today's live Q&A will work is I'll be interviewing Kenny, asking him some questions about the business, trying to dig more into what the investment opportunity looks like. As we go along, if any of the attendees have any questions for Kenny or for I, please feel free to put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom account here. And I'll get them, those questions asked kind of as soon as they're relevant or as soon as we have a break in the conversation. So with that said, Kenny, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure, Rob. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this and having the opportunity to explain a little more about what we do.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to it. So with that, why don't you just kick us off by telling us a little bit about what SelenBio does?
Sure.
What's the overview?
Yeah, SelenBio is it's an Austin, Texas-based biotechnology company. The name SelenBio is a combination of selenium and biotechnology. We own a worldwide exclusive license for some patented antimicrobial technology, which we call a platform technology, which can be used in industrial and commercial and healthcare applications.
Great. I'm looking forward to kind of digging into what the product does and what your markets are, but why don't we start with, tell us a little bit about yourself and the team you've built at SelenBio. What's your history? How did you get into this? And why are you guys the team to make this successful?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very proud and pleased with the team, the formation team that we put together. It's a very talented and intelligent group, very experienced group. Our president is a guy by the name of Carl Donges. Carl has both a legal and a regulatory background, as well as startup experience. And that's important to us at SelenBio because the business model that we have involves a lot of agreements, legal agreements, license agreements, joint development agreements, material transfer, non-disclosure. So his experience in that is very helpful and contributes a lot to our team. And then Matt Belsole is our Director of Business Development. Matt's got over 15 years of sales and business development experience, primarily in the healthcare industry, which is one of the primary focuses for us early on. And not only in the healthcare industry, but in working with group purchasing organizations, which is important to us. And that's kind of a trend now in healthcare and in other industries where they're consolidating the buying responsibilities. And then Dr. Ted Reed. Dr. Reed is our Chief Science Officer. He's also one of the authors of our patented technology. So he's been studying the selenium chemistry for many, many years, probably 15, 20 years. So he's very knowledgeable in all the technical aspects of what we do. So he's a big contribution. And then myself, I'm the CEO of SelenBio. I've got over 30 years of business experience. Probably 2/3 of that has been in the startup and turnaround and growth stages of various types of businesses. I've been involved and played a part in selling a company about 10 years ago. So I've got a wide range of experience in all the areas of running in the business. And then we have a very good group of advisors and counselors, mainly in the specific areas where we're pursuing an application in the dental industry, in the wound care industry, in the paint industry, in the plastic industry. We've solicited and identified and engaged people with expertise in all those different areas. So I believe we have a very strong team that will help us be successful.
That's great. And you put together this team to solve a problem. Can you talk to us about what that problem is? What are you guys setting out to solve?
Sure. The problem, in a nutshell, is our CellDox technology, which is the name we've given our antimicrobial technology. The problem we hope to solve is the problems that are caused by harmful bacteria, by fungus, and also by virus. One thing to be clear about is our technology, our antimicrobial technology, is preventative. It's not a treatment. It's not a pharmaceutical. It doesn't cure the problem. It prevents the problem from happening. So not only do we want, and our primary objective is to inhibit or reduce or eliminate the bacteria that causes the problem, as sort of a ripple effect to that problem solving. We hope that we can also decrease the high cost of healthcare. If we can eliminate the problem of an infection being caused by someone or to someone for a diagnosis that they weren't originally admitted to, say, a hospital, then we can help and contribute to lowering healthcare costs, lowering the length of stay in a hospital, which is a disruptive thing for family members. And not only in the healthcare industry, but our technology also applies to textiles like cotton fabric, where we can incorporate our technology into cotton fiber and create antibacterial bed linens and athletic clothes, into paint to prevent fungus from growing and algae. So the problem is primarily preventing the effects of bacteria, fungus, and virus.
Great. And so, you mentioned your technology there. Let's dive right in. What is the technology you developed and what are its applications?
Well, we call it, the technology is called CellDox, which is, it's a made up word. In business, we like to make up words that mean something. So it's called CellDox because it means selenium reduction oxidation. And so we kind of combine the letters in those words, but most people think of technology as either data or electronic technology, especially here in Austin, Texas. I mean, it's a lot of IT, a lot of software, a lot of apps, but technology is really defined as the application of scientific knowledge, for practical purposes. So we apply the scientific knowledge of the selenium chemistry to a practical purpose of solving the problems caused by bacteria. So that's really why we call it an antimicrobial technology, is that it's taking scientific knowledge and applying it to practical purposes.
And so what are some of those practical purposes?
Really, what sets us apart and kind of makes us different than other antimicrobials that might be on the market today. Silver is probably the most commonly known, most widely used in an antimicrobial application. But our selenium-based technology is one, what we call covalently bound to either the material or the product that we integrate the technology into. So that just means that it's permanent. Once it's there, it will not leach from the surface, go into the environment, whether that environment is your body, whether it's a body of water. The second thing is it's catalytic, which just means it's perpetual. As long as there's oxygen present, then it continues to perform the antimicrobial activity. So it will last for the entire life of the product as long as it's used according to its instructions. And so the fact that it's antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, means it has a broad range of applications that can benefit a lot of products and a lot of people. And then the last thing is that it's less expensive than silver. So to incorporate our technology to create an antimicrobial characteristic is probably less than 6-8% of the total manufacturing cost for that particular product. And then you've created a premium product. So it's really a win-win situation for both the manufacturer and the consumer.
Right, and what are some examples of those products or applications that might use your CellDox technology?
Well, currently, we have two products on the market today. We have a dental sealant product in the human dental market, which is a product that's applied to your teeth, and it will prevent the formation of plaque, which we all know, and plaque is just a colonization of bacteria. And then we just recently, at the end of September, introduced a antibacterial sealant material to the veterinary industry. Believe it or not, periodontal disease in your pets, in your dogs and cats that you have at home is a very serious problem, and there's currently no treatment available other than annual cleaning. So those are two products that we have on the market today. Some that we have in development are a wound care bandage. That is, we have done quite an extensive amount of testing on and really are nearing completion in that particular project. We also have a silicone material that we're beginning to work with, and silicone is used in the manufacturing of urinary catheters. Plastics, different types of polymers, they call them, polyurethane, polyethylene, PVC, all used in different types of functions like tubing, plastic water bottles, all kinds of different plastics. Textile, I mentioned, in cotton, we're working with a university to integrate the technology into the cotton fiber. And then paint as one of the final things that we currently are working on, paint to be used, whether it's in healthcare facilities or nursing homes or schools, even cruise ships, to be able to prevent the biofilm formation, which is the spread of bacteria from one person to another.
Great. So with all those products, you can basically build in an antimicrobial, antibacterial technology, and it runs in perpetuity.
Right. It's as long as the product is used according to its instructions, and there's no harsh chemical or anything used to wipe it down or clean it or store it, then it will continue to work indefinitely.
Great. And so you talked about a bunch of different products and applications. Can you talk to us about what's the overall market for your product? How big is it? Are there different segments? What are you looking at?
Well, yeah, To go back to the original explanation of the company, I mean, when we say it's a platform technology, it just means it has many, many applications. So the market really is anything and everything that would benefit from having an antimicrobial or antibacterial feature to it or characteristic. So the market size is really immeasurable to some degree. But to give you some examples, I mean, hospital-acquired infections, which are infections that someone would receive after they've been admitted to the hospital for their primary diagnosis, they contract some other problem. To treat that on an annual basis, just the top 5 is about a $9.8 billion a year market. The paint market, just the consumer paint, I read an article just yesterday that there's estimated in 2019 to be 1.4 billion gallons of paint sold in the United States only. If you put a $40 price tag to that and even a discounted to 50% utilization, you're talking about a $25-30 billion a year market. So the plastics industry, the silicone industry, just in the healthcare segment of our technology, it's in excess of $50 billion annually.
Great. And so, when you talk about having this market to address, how would you plan to address it? What's the business model of SelenBio? How are you guys planning on capitalizing?
Well, what we do and what our model is we go into a market or we analyze a market, and then we try to identify areas where either an improved outcome or a lower cost would be a benefit to that particular market. We try to identify markets that are large, that there are a lot of markets that would benefit, but maybe there's only a small amount of volume. But we identify those markets, then we look for what we call joint development partners. So it's really manufacturers or companies that make products that would benefit from having our CellDox technology integrated into that particular product or material. And so we meet, we maybe interview, we solicit, we discuss, we negotiate a joint development agreement, which is just a process to go through the research and development to get to the commercial market. And then we execute a license agreement, and that gives that particular licensee the right to use our technology in their product or material. And the way we generate revenue is that we would charge in our license agreement some sort of a royalty. So on all the sales that this company makes, we may receive some percentage of those sales. So that's the reason we go after the larger markets to be able to generate higher revenue. And then we're the sole and exclusive manufacturer of our CellDox technology. So the compound, the selenium-based compound that a licensee or sub-licensee would use, they acquire that from us. And so there's 2 sources of revenue, both of which can generate substantial income in a fairly short period of time once we execute that license agreement.
That's great. And we have the first question from someone in the audience. The answer for a question from John is this product safe and does it have side effects?
It's a good question. And we have done toxicity tests. We've done biocompatibility tests. We have 2 FDA 510Ks for our dental sealant products. So in order to have the clearance, as they call it, for from the FDA to be able to sell the product to the public market, it has to be safe. But in addition to that, if you look at many vitamin tablets, selenium is actually nutritionally required. Our body requires so many micrograms per day of selenium. And it has, if anything, it has kind of antioxidant type effects and not any harmful or adverse side effects.
Great. And thanks for the question. If anyone else has other questions, please feel free to add them below. So Kenny, you talked about creating these joint development agreements with licensees and then creating licenses. It sounds like you have 2 products on the market now. What else is in the pipeline? And as you go more into the human healthcare space, are there going to be any regulatory hurdles you have to get over?
I would say, Rob, right now we have what I would define or identify as 5 specific projects. And what our goal and objective is because there is so many things that can benefit, we have to be disciplined to be able to focus and concentrate on the products, one that will provide us with the highest return, but then also be very beneficial to the end user. But so we have the wound care bandage, which would be a product that would benefit from preventing infections in any kind of, whether it's a post-surgical site infection, an accidental wound. So we have that product. We have the cotton fiber that we're working with to integrate to create some antibacterial textile, whether it's clothing or athletic wear. I mentioned the plastics, the different polyurethane, polyethylene. We have some tubing projects underway, the silicone, the paint. Yes, there will be, in most cases, whether it's healthcare or consumer, there's going to be some sort of regulatory approval that's going to be needed. But the good thing is it's not a pharmaceutical. Our technology is not pharmaceutical. So it's, when you think in terms of regulatory, people go, oh God, it's going to take forever and it's going to cost a lot of money. But because our technology does not leach, it creates a whole new aspect to the regulatory approval. So it doesn't leach into the water, it doesn't leach into the body. So as long as we can prove the non-toxicity of the technology, it helps. Now, it's still, with a new product, it would take 3 to 6 months to be able to go through the regulatory process with all the paperwork that's involved. But it's not a hurdle or an obstacle that we think will be a deterrent to the successful commercialization of the products we have underway now.
Great. We've got a couple questions here. 2 people actually asked the same question, but we'll circle back to one real quick. We have one question of, doesn't selenium have in certain doses have carcinogenic effects?
Well, I think selenium, like anything in overabundance can have some adverse effects. All of the testing and the research that we've done and the knowledge of Dr. Ted Reed, does not indicate that there's any, especially any fatal side effects of the technology. Again, anything in overabundance is going to create some problems, no matter what it is. But we haven't seen, nor do we believe that there's any real harmful side effects to selenium.
Great. And then we had two different investors ask the same question, which is, who are your competitors?
Okay, our competitors, primarily, if the audience knows a company by the name of Microban, which is a company that's been around for many years, that incorporates a silver ion antimicrobial technology into many of the consumer products we know today. So they would be our number one or biggest competitor. There are also other smaller companies, the names of which escape me now. There's 2 that I can think of, but that are on a smaller scale, either working with nanotechnology and trying to incorporate silver ions into some sort of a nanotechnology to create an antimicrobial effect. A lot of times it's a coating. The companies can coat their different products with an antibacterial, but we believe it's better to be able to integrate. But there's not a lot of companies that are doing what we hope and plan to do, and that is incorporate ours into the material itself.
And that actually leads me into another one of my questions, which is, can you talk to us a little bit about the IP the company has and the protections you have?
Sure. We've got two issued U.S. patents. One we call the umbrella patent, which is the patent that really covers all of the use or any intended use of selenium as an antimicrobial agent. So we feel like we've covered all of the applications there to prevent anyone else from using selenium as an antimicrobial. And then we have a dental specific patent that it applies strictly to the dental application itself. And then we filed a patent in Europe, and we have had it validated in 10 European countries. They're numerous and they're many, and they're also very expensive, but we picked what we believe to be the 10 countries that had really the highest healthcare spending cost in the European Union. And that's how we chose the 10 countries that we validated our patent in.
Great. And a follow-up question from your earlier questions was, why is selenium better than silver?
Well, one, if nothing else, just the mental connotation of silver seems to be a concern in a lot of people's mind. Just the fact of the potential toxic nature of silver. Although, I'll say, I mean, it's being used as an antimicrobial. So, but just the old perception versus reality situation. But selenium, again, is nutritionally required. Your body requires a certain number of micrograms. And then, again, it's cheaper. It's less expensive, and we've discovered and determined how to be able to use selenium as an antimicrobial versus silver.
Is there also the fact that your selenium doesn't leach, does that have to do with selenium itself, or is that the system you use to bond it to whatever material you use?
It has more to do with the patent formulation and the process. No, I'm not a scientist. I'm a business guy, but it has to do with the formulation and the chemistry, the molecular binding, I guess, if from one molecule to another, that does not then allow it to leach from the surface. Okay.
And so a slight pivot from the technology to the fundraise here itself. We have a question from the audience about how did you arrive at your $4 price per share?
We looked at the platform nature and the markets and the industries and the size of those industries. We looked at Microban and what they do and what they currently are valued at. We also had other startup companies within not quite the same process or technology that we're using, but another similar antibacterial type technology, and looked at their valuation when they started to raise money for their company. So we kind of combined all of it together. As we all know in the startup world, the valuation question is always a big one, but we know some of the multiples that biotechnology companies are being purchased at these days the valuation, the interest in biotechnology today. We try to study and research, what's going on in the market, who's doing what, for how much. And so, we combine all those, mix it up in the pot, and come up with the valuation.
Great. And this is a little bit of my question as well as a question from the audience is, before you started raising on Netcapital, you had previously raised $1.1 million. Is that correct from other outside investors?
That's correct.
Valuation? Yes.
On the $4 per share valuation. Correct. Yes.
Great. And so another question from our audience is kind of what is your investment structure? Meaning, is this the one and only fundraise? If I invest now, there are additional fundraising rounds, will my investment be diluted in further rounds?
Yeah, I mean, in the biotechnology world and research and development is expensive. And so while we would hope and we believe that the current fundraising effort will be sufficient to get us through those 5 R&D projects that I mentioned earlier that we're working on to get them to the commercial stage, there's always a possibility and maybe even probability that we're going to have to raise more money in the future. And so, yes, it would be a dilution, but it would be at a higher valuation. The anticipation and the hope would be that when and if we have to go out and raise more money, it's a more valuable investment at that time. And so even though you may be diluted as a percentage, the value per share should be higher, would be my guess. That would be my hope anyway. That's what we're trying to do.
Of course, that's the plan. That's the goal here. Great. So, speaking of the future a little bit, talk to me and talk to us about kind of what do you think 2020 holds for the company as we look ahead to next year?
I think 2020 is going to be a big year, only because, again, we have, and I know the stage of our projects and what needs to be done and what's left to be done. So I think in 2020, our plan is to have at least 2 or 3 of these projects completed. Even when we complete, the companies that we're working with will have to develop their marketing plan and a strategy to go out and sell the product that's enhanced with our technology. But I think just the fact that we'll increase the number of commercial products that contain our antimicrobial technology will be a big, big step forward for us in 2020. That's
great. And so, as you look ahead, without getting too speculative, what could a potential exit be for a company like SelenBio in this space? Who are acquirers? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things, and one of the things that attracted me personally and our founders, and I think I could speak for the original investors and the stockholders that we've had so far, is again going back to the platform nature of the technology. So we have many applications that have value in each one of its particular situations. So while it might not be an exit, so to speak, as we all know, selling the company, it could create a series of what I would call cash events, in that maybe in a specific application, a sub-licensee may say, hey, I don't want anybody else in this market. I'm doing very well, so I'll pay you, some sort of exclusivity fee to be able to continue to keep my competition out, which would be, a cash windfall for the company, which could turn into dividends, for the stockholders. The other thing is with growth, I mean, there's always the IPO market. As things happen, it's always an option, as your company grows. But, but again, the whole platform explanation, bigger companies who see the benefit of this technology and know that they can also spread their risk and their resources over a lot of different areas, make it attractive once there's a little more validation in the commercial market. So I think we've got a lot of options when it comes to potential exit, potential future growth, potential future return for our stockholders, which really is a good position to be in.
Yeah, that's great. Just as a reminder to the audience, we're coming towards the end of the prepared questions. So if you have any other questions for Kenny, please add them. We have one more from the audience right now. Are these shares that are for sale a different class of share than the first round of investment, that first 1.1 million?
No, it is not. All we have right now, SelenBio Inc., all we have are issued common stock shares. So anyone investing today or tomorrow is on the same class as I am, as all of our original investors. Everyone is issued common stock.
Great. That's all the questions we have for now. If anyone has any last minute questions, please feel free to add them in. Oh, we got another one. So how close are you to sales contracts and positive cash flow, and then projected positive EBITDA?
I would say we're still probably a year or so away from positive EBITDA. We have a small amount of sales revenue now with our dental products, and actually have recently signed a contract with a distributor that we think will greatly enhance the revenue stream for our dental products. And so what we need, again, and why we want to accomplish the completion of our R&D projects, is that the sale of our CellDocs compound will be a big enhancement to our revenue opportunity, because obviously, the royalty aspect of our revenue is more of a ramping, an increasing over time. The company's going to have to take time to get traction in that particular product sales. And so when you're talking about 5-6% of something, it takes quite a bit of volume to add up to significant revenue. So our significant revenue early on will be the sale of our CellDocs compound, which for high volume use could be kilos and kilos of compound. It's a liquid material, so at a very good margin, can create revenue fairly quickly.
Great. And if the audience has any other questions, please feel free to put them in now while we wait, or as we wrap up. Kenny, is there anything else you'd kind of like investors to know about the company and about the investment opportunity?
Well, I wish everyone could experience what we experience on a daily basis and see the kind of results that we're seeing in the lab and in the testing that we're doing. But more importantly, and really, we all look at investments and make investments, based upon a financial aspect to that decision. I mean, we all know that it costs money to live, and we all want to make more money, and we all want to make smart decisions. But what I would ask or tell the audience is that an investment in SelenBio is actually an investment in really helping a lot of people. If you think about the application and the worldwide nature of problems that occur because of bacteria and lack of sanitation and those kind of things, really the investment not only goes toward a financial return, but it also goes toward a humanitarian benefit to people who who may be suffering from things that are caused by virus or fungus or bacteria. So it helps to know that you can be a part of a solution to a very big problem and improve the quality of life for a lot of people.
Great, Kenny. Well, we have someone snuck in a question for us.
Hey.
Frederick asks, and it was something we covered earlier, but we can cover it again really quick, is what is your exit strategy?
Well, again, as we briefly mentioned, and without getting too speculative or something like that, or, as they say, too forward-looking statements here, but, it's to validate the technology in, 4, 5, 6 commercial applications. We believe once we do that after the dental application that we have commercially successful now, so we know it works. Once we do that, we believe that we'll attract the attention of some major multinational companies. We'll have a lot of options at that point once we get to that stage of having several contracts in place and several applications in the market.
Great. Well, Kenny, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. We have one more question.
Yeah.
And no, it was a comment. Just someone said definitely worth his time. Thanks for the information. So appreciate it, Frederick. Thanks for joining us. Kenny, thanks for joining us and taking the time to discuss SelenBio with us and educating us. For everyone who attended, thank you for taking the time, for asking some really amazing questions, and for learning more. SelenBio is open for investment on netcapital.com. You can find their investment opportunity there. You can also find the link to their webpage on our site in the email invitation to this webinar. If anyone has any additional questions for Kenny, you can post on his discussion board on his offering page on NetCapital. You're also welcome to email me at rob.burnett@netcapital.com if anyone has questions about NetCapital or the investment process. And with that, Kenny, thanks again for joining us.
All right, Rob, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we've given some information, good information, and people will consider investing.
Let's hope so. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day.
All right, thank you.